Hello, I'm Jared Fry, General Manager of Medina TV, and I want to welcome you to our 2019 Candidates Forum. And of course, joining me as always is Jacqueline Rinksmeyer with the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, thank you, Jared. We are once again pleased to partner with Medina TV to offer our viewers an opportunity to become more informed voters for the upcoming November election.
And of course, Medina TV or the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce do not support or endorse any of these candidates. This is just brought to you as an informational way to learn more about the candidates running for office.
All candidates in contested races were invited via certified letter to participate in the interviews today.
So sit back and get informed with our 2019 Candidates Forum. Joining us now is a candidate for the City Council at-large seat, and it's Bob Mihalko. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and why don't you first start off and just let the residents and the viewers know a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I'm running for City Council because I love the city. I grew up here. I've lived in Medina County my whole life. So my father opened a business in 1971 up on North Court Street. So we have been here forever. And I went through the Medina schools, and I was in Scouts here in Medina. I was the little neighborhood kid growing up over off of Guilford by Heritage Elementary School, paperboy, all that stuff. So I've always been involved in the community through the scouting program, especially. Stayed on as an adult, was Scoutmaster for many years, and just love this town. And we do all the Friday night band concerts, and we just get involved. And so. I actually ran for council 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. Nobody probably remembers that, but I was 19. So I've always had the itch, and it's been itchy lately, so it was time to give it another try. So.
Well, that brings up a good question then. So when you first ran, like you said, 30 years ago, what was your main drive and passion? And then has it changed as you go to run this time?
Has it changed? Actually, the issues of the city haven't changed as I'm knocking on doors, which is kind of unique. The drive and passion back then was civic obligation. I don't know if it is when I was in Scouts doing my citizenship merit badge with Mr. Waite, or if it was my high school teacher here that just motivated me to have that passion for the community. But I just have always had that passion to serve the community. And So now, like I said, then I was too young, and I knew I was too young, but I just jumped in and gave it a try. This time, I'm doing it before I get too old, so I don't have a lack of relevance. So I just think it's a good time in my life, and it's time to give it a try and serve the people of the community I love so much.
Yeah. And we definitely appreciate you throwing your hat in the ring. It's always good to see residents come out and do that. What would you say is your balance, especially looking at a council at large seat where you're focusing on the whole city and not a particular ward? How would you balance you being an elected official, the opinion of your constituents, and the opinion of other members of council? How do you work a balance between all of that?
Well, that's a good question. Well, certainly, you have to take all of that into consideration, and you just have to make decisions. I guess you have to listen to the leaders of the community, as well as the residents of the community and those that are in the paid positions at council, at the city hall, the professionals that deal with the engineers and the service directors and the people that know the in and out of the operation, and make a decision based on what you think is the best step for the community. I don't know that we always have to agree 100% with each other as members of council. I think if we're too uniform, then we're kind of a robot. So I think we have to keep our ears and open at all times.
And I think that's a good point then too. You kind of lead right perfectly in my next question. If you are dealing with members of council, there are going to be topics and issues where you guys may not see eye to eye. How do you feel you handle situations like that? Maybe dealing with someone that may have a different opinion.
You just have to listen. Just because you don't agree with somebody doesn't mean that they're wrong or that they're right. So taking into consideration everybody's opinion. That's what I really like about Medina city government. You know, we all have our partisan beliefs, but it's neat that Medina is a nonpartisan government so that we take that piece out of it. We're not loyal to any belief. We're loyal to green and white. We're loyal to Medina. And I think I do a pretty good job of that. I have friends of all political beliefs that we don't always agree on some of things, but we are still good friends. Mm-hmm. So I think we could do that at council too.
And then is there anything that, as you're running for this at-large seat, any big priority or an issue that you want to tackle if elected?
Well, knocking on doors. The topic that comes up a lot is the wild animal population growth inside the city limits, and it's not really the city's fault that that's happening. You know, Medina has been built out for quite a few years. It's not like we're building new houses and squeezing the deer out of their environment, but the townships are building still, and the deer are repopulating. It's an issue that the residents have been bringing up constantly. It has come up at a council meeting recently, and I wasn't even going to go there until I hit a deer last week. So my car is in the body shop right now. I don't know the answers to the question, but I certainly would like to take a further step. I know that the current council has been studying the deer for several years now. Mm-hmm. I know that there's a lot of complications with that, and I don't know if there's an easy answer, but that's one thing. The other thing that comes up a lot is streets and sidewalks, of course. Mm-hmm. And that brings its own challenges because they cost money, and we're not growing. So an aging city or a mature city has its financial restraints that you can't put new streets, you can't pave all the streets with gold, you have to do it in steps. So being mindful of that as well. And just trying to make those right decisions so that the money goes to where it needs to go. Sure. And keep a balance.
Mm-hmm. And of course, some of these tough issues in regards to the money and the finance, if elected, we'll kind of go through three different topics here and get your opinion. The first would be the current parking structure, the parking deck being built over by City Hall. Kind of your thoughts, if elected, what would you like to see?
Well, it's being built, so I mean, it's a done deal. You can't go into office and say, well, stop that construction, tear it down, and make it just a parking lot. It's already done. So, but on that same topic, if we're going to have continued economic growth around the square, and I know in the master plan that they came up with a few years ago, there's talk of possible redevelopment around the square, more buildings like the Raymond building that was just built. It's beautiful. That incorporate the historic look of the community, but include some downtown living and some more storefronts. Obviously, parking is an issue. So it's wonderful to drive through the square these days. You know, like I said, I've lived here my whole life, and have those restaurants on the square that are just booming at 9 o'clock at night. And knowing that all the other stores are closed, but the parking on the square is still packed. And so there's obviously still a need. It's, the other side of that argument is not a lot of people use the parking garage behind the courthouse. I do think the one by City Hall is probably a little bit closer to the shopping district, so to speak. I saw in that master plan a couple years ago, there's even talks of a desire of somebody putting a hotel downtown. If that was to happen, we definitely need more parking. So I think in all, it's a good thing for the community, especially with the events that we put on in the downtown district. But like I said, it's a done deal anyway, so it's kind of not an issue.
Now, one that's not quite a done deal yet, but might be by the time you would take office in January, would be the courthouse project.
Oh yeah.
The talk of how that courthouse
put it together, put Muni Court in, Muni Court out.
Your opinion in that?
And I have a unique take on that because I actually work for the clerk of courts. That's my daytime job. So I work at the auto title, so I'm not at the courthouse, but my wife is. And I understand where the city's coming from with the desire to share the security, share the common space, share the restrooms, all of that expense with the county, and that certainly financially makes a ton of sense. Whether to take down the building or scrape the building or keep the building that's existing and add on to it, I'd have to see the real numbers. It doesn't, your logical mindset says it doesn't make sense to tear down a structure that you can add on to. But then from the other side, it may cost more to repurpose the existing building. Whatever makes the most financial sense is probably the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And if that includes Muni Court, or if Muni Court needs to do something else, if that's the right thing to do. The biggest concern that I would have more than the structure is the parking. And Muni Court lot that's a busy parking lot over there. And so is the courthouse, the current courthouse parking. So if they're going to add to that parking garage to make more room in the final plan, it's all still in early development. Mm-hmm. Until we get a little bit further down the road and see what the real project is and the real appearance and the real cost, it's too early to make a firm decision on which is the best route. But again, economically, service, I would want that courthouse to be something that's going to service for the next 70 years. Not I think the existing building was built for 1969, and we weren't thinking about domestic relations and probate and all the things that are in there now that didn't exist back then. So as long as they build it big enough for growth, then I'm okay with something happening.
Now, another big issue that's kind of come across council here recently has been the diversity and inclusion. Mm-hmm. And I know there's some ordinances that have been passed, but I'm sure that's not something that's done at this point because federal, state, and everything like that still has to pass
right.
Regulations and resolutions in the same regard. What are your thoughts in regards to diversity and inclusion?
I have family members that cover every one of those alphabetical letters, and we love them all. I just didn't really personally think that it was a city issue. I think it's a state and federal issue. And, I don't know what I would have done if I was in there with all the details. It's easy to look from outside the window and say you have an opinion. When you're involved in the process, it's probably a little bit different. When I heard that was coming, I know that Medina watered down what was originally asked of them. But I don't like to see the close sign put up on our storefronts. I don't want a city to come in, or a business to want to come to our community and be concerned about coming to our community because it may be hard for business. Just the same, I certainly feel the people need to be protected, but I think that we're all protected. So that's just my opinion, looking from the outside. I think that I would have suggested that this was a state or federal issue, and it doesn't really involve our 4-mile radius, personally. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
That's a tough one because again, I have a lot of friends that are in that relationship, mm-hmm. but I just don't like restricting. You're punishing someone else for. I just don't understand mm-hmm. why we needed to do that, and it doesn't affect the townships. It's a very small radius that it affects.
And then now switch gears on you a little bit again and look at you kind of mentioned it with some of these other projects that are going on, but what do you feel the relationship, of course you have your taxpayer base, but then you also have the business tax base that brings in the revenue for the city. What do you think about the combination of the two?
Well,
it
has to be a strong marriage between business and residential, and the residential tax base is always going to be higher if we have no business tax base. I was a small business person. We had the photography business that I grew up in and still do part-time. So that was kind of a micro business. My wife owns some restaurants, franchise restaurants, and I also had a franchise restaurant. Mine was in Parma Heights. It wasn't in Medina, but you have to have the industrial business as well. It all offsets the revenue base and creates jobs. There's been lots of studies that when you shop local, how that money is recirculated through the community up to 7 times. And that 67%, I think, of the up to or thereabouts of the money when you shop local is respent in your community. And that's very important for a local economy, both for the businesses, for the residents, for the job opportunities for the residents of the community. So it's a big happy marriage, and I definitely think that I'm pro-business. I'm not going to chase away business. That's just where I'm at.
And what do you think, not necessarily qualifications, but what do you think you provide to city council that you as a person would help improve council?
I'm a good listener. I've been in the service industry my entire life, even as a kid. Like I said, I was a paper boy. I was the kid that mowed people's grass, walked their dogs. I've worked in the photography business. I'm good at putting out fires. As a wedding photographer, there's nothing worse than a wedding day and a bride and her mom. And they're at each other. Because mom has one idea and the bride has her idea, and it's her day. So diffusing those type of situations, some things can't be diffused, but diffusing things I'm pretty good at. I'm good at making light of tough situations and getting people to calm down. And I'm a good active listener. So I genuinely like just about everybody I meet, and try to solve a problem. Can't always solve other problems, but I try.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to answer some hard questions and being honest about those. And I want to give a moment for you in case I missed any question you'd like to answer or anything you'd like to address our voters about. This is your opportunity to do so.
Okay. Well, I just I'm excited for the opportunity to run for council. Again, I tried this 30 years ago, and I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to serve you and to be a part of forming the next 20 or 30 years of Medina's history, and preserving what we have, keeping the community that we have vibrant and special. One of the things, as again, my life as a photographer, when I met people that have moved to Medina, they said that we live in a bubble. We live in this little happy town that people like each other and they communicate with each other and they genuinely care about each other. And I want to keep that spirit in the community for the next 200 years. And I want to just be my part of helping with that. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And this is Bob Mihalko, candidate for City Council at Large. Bob, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And wish you the best of luck this November.
Thank you very much.